Congressman Paul, I think you have questions and concerns about the bonanza in the hedge fund industry. Do you?
Yes, I think this is not a consequence of free markets. What's happening is there's transfer of wealth from the poor and the middle class to the wealthy. This comes about because of a monetary system that we have. When you inflate a currency or destroy a currency, the middle class gets wiped out. So the people who get to use the money first, which is created by the Federal Reserve System, benefit. So the money gravitates to the banks and to Wall Street. So that's why you have more billionaires than ever before. Today, this country is in the middle of a recession for a lot of people. Michigan knows about it. Poor people know about it. The middle class knows about it. Wall Street doesn't know about it. Washington, D.C. doesn't know about it. But it's because of the monetary system and the excessive spending. As long as we live beyond our means, we are destined to live beneath our means. And we have lived beyond our means because we are financing a foreign policy that is so extravagant and beyond what we can control, as well as the spending here at home. And we're depending on the creation of money out of thin air, which is nothing more than debasement of the currency. It's counterfeit, and it is a natural, predictable consequence that you're going to have people benefit from it and other people suffer. So if you want a healthy economy, you have to study monetary theory and figure out why it is that we're suffering. And everybody doesn't suffer equally, or this wouldn't be so bad. It's always the poor people, those on retired incomes, that suffer the most. But the politicians and those who get to use the money first, like the military-industrial complex, they make a lot of money and they benefit from it.
Thank you, Congressman. Congressman Paul, would we have gone to war in Iraq if we weren't so dependent on Middle East oil?
Probably not, but that should not be a reason. That's an old theory. It's mercantilistic. It's neo-colonialism that you have to maintain your supply routes and your natural resources. But I think there's still a lot of those kind of people around, and they believe, you know, we were told it was about oil and jobs when it first started in 1990, and this is just a continuation of that war. Indeed, this war is a mistake. It was a mistake to go in. It's very costly, and it has a lot of economic ramifications. We're going broke. We have this huge deficit. We're spending nearly $1 trillion with maintaining our empire overseas, and that's a cost. Right now, we owe foreigners $2.7 trillion. No wonder they have money to come back in here and buy stuff up, and then we object. But that has to do with our monetary system as well as our foreign policy. So if we want prosperity, we have to change our foreign policy. We have to live within our means, but we can't maintain a reserve currency where all our greatest export today are paper dollars. We create money out of thin air, and they still accept it as if it was backed by gold. And that is the reason all this money goes overseas, and at the same time, we finance all this military activity overseas. It's bankrupting this country. And not only that, it's a threat to our personal liberties here, and it's going to be a threat to our economy because we are beginning to live beneath our means. And that is a natural consequence of what happens when you live beyond your means. So we must change our policy both overseas and domestically.
Congressman Paul, do you believe the President needs authorization of Congress to attack strategic targets in Iran, nuclear facilities?
Absolutely. This idea of going and talking to attorneys totally baffles me. Why don't we just open up the Constitution and read it? You're not allowed to go to war without a declaration of war. Now, as far as fleeting enemies go, yes, if there's an imminent attack on us, we've never had that happen in 220 years. The thought that the Iranians could pose an imminent attack on the United States is preposterous. There's no way. This is just war propaganda, continued war propaganda, preparing this nation to go to war and spread this war not only in Iraq but into Iran unconstitutionally. It is a road to disaster for us as a nation. It's a road to our financial disaster if we don't read the Constitution once in a while.
Around the horn, Congressman. We're back with the roundtable. Here's Rudy Giuliani, the former mayor of New York, with Ron Paul going back and forth on, it's now become a classic, the 9/11 attacks.
The point that I think it was Congressman Paul made before, that we've never had an imminent attack. I don't know where he was on September 11.
That was no country. That was 19 thugs. It had nothing to do with a country.
And since September, Well, I think it was kind of organized in Afghanistan and Pakistan, and if we had known about it, maybe hitting a target there quickly might have helped prevent it. In any event, we've had 23 plots since September 11 where Islamic terrorists are planning to kill Americans.
Well, you got a new conservative and old conservative there. What do you make of it, Steve? That is the classic. The old libertarian isolationist taking on the new kid who's focused on terrorism.
Well, I think at a couple of points there, Ron Paul sounded frankly crazy. I mean, he was suggested at one point that it's not possible that we could be attacked by Iran. Well, that's crazy talk.
Well, his distinction between a state and a terrorist group, I think he was trying to make.
Sure, as if there are these distinctions. I mean, a lot of times, and Giuliani, I think, was right to point out that the Taliban and al-Qaeda were basically interchangeable. In Sudan throughout the late 1990s, the Sudanese government and al-Qaeda, basically interchangeable. But Ron Paul wants to divide them and make the world simple, put everybody in boxes. It just doesn't work that way. And I thought Giuliani smacked him pretty well for it.
Is this going to be a Giuliani ride to the White House, do you think? Just finding somebody who will say something pre-9/11 so he can do a takeoff? Well, it seems to be that he needs it. It works.
Congressman Paul, do you promise to support the nominee of the Republican Party next year?
Not right now, I don't. Not unless they're willing to end the war and bring our troops home, and not unless they're willing to look at the excessive spending. No, I'm not going to support them if they continue down the path which has taken our party down the tubes. I mean, we've lost credibility because of all our spending, because we have violated the civil liberties of all the American people, and we have adopted the Democrats' foreign policy. Why don't we run on George Bush's foreign policy of a humble foreign policy and no nation building, and don't police the world? Then I'll support
Let me try that by a couple of gentlemen on the right over here. Mr. Tancredo, would you pledge now to support the nominee of your party?
You know, I've said, I don't know how many times, that I am absolutely tired and sick and tired of being forced to go to the polls and say I'm going to make this choice between the lesser of two evils. I really don't intend to do that again.
Yeah.
How long is Ron Paul going to be hanging in here? Is he going to be around Giuliani long enough so Giuliani can keep smacking him down?
Well, let me tell you what we figured out, because I heard it through my ear during the debate. Will you back the nominee of the party if, obviously, you don't win? And both Tancredo and Ron Paul said no. The way people assume that is to be interpreted is that means both gentlemen will stay with this campaign to the end, trying to defeat the front runner, no matter who it is, and they will not be easy to win over in the end.
Oh, I think that's true. And I think what's keeping candidates in is two things, actually: the internet and the ability to raise money over the internet. But the second thing is these debates. All you need is the money for a plane ticket and a hotel room at a Motel 8, and you get a national audience. That's keeping weak candidates in, and it'll continue as long as they get their soapbox. In the exchange between Giuliani and Ron Paul, what I thought was the impressive thing is that Giuliani is actually listening to Ron Paul's answers. He's reacting to them. You can bone up for a debate. You can have your prepared remarks. But Giuliani actually pays attention and reacts over what his opponents say.
That is so smart, Roger.